I live in Bremerton, but I go to Tacoma Community College. So this is my project on the health and equity of Bremerton's urban forest. A little bit about me. Like I just said, I go to Tacoma Community College, but I live in Bremerton. I'm currently working towards my associates in environmental science, but I'm really interested in studying geology. So I'm hoping that my career will shift that way. About my project. So I was assigned 150 blocks that were randomly chosen on Google Maps, and I went around and surveyed those trees. I looked at the health of the trees, mostly maple and western red cedar, but I mostly found maple street trees, not so much western red cedar. I managed to get 100 out of 150 blocks, and I stopped to collect data as I went, and just looking for any signs of disease or heat damage. And I included this really yucky looking western red cedar that Fig and I found in the city. Um, and then here is a map of all of my blocks. So I know it probably doesn't look like too much, but Bremerton's pretty big. So this was quite a bit of work. And one thing that was really a challenge for me was Bremerton's right of way. Um, so if you notice at the bottom of the picture down here, this tree, there's a property delineation right there where there's little cinder blocks. So technically that's not data I could gather for my project. And unfortunately, we discovered this a little in the project. So I just kind of had to keep trucking with what I could get for data. But yeah. And then here's another example. You can see I was able to collect data on this tree here, but not the tree right next to it because that's where the property delineation was. So maple trees are a crucial component of our urban forest. They filter our air and capture carbon dioxide and, do the things that trees are supposed to do for us. Maple trees made up 98% of my data. As I said before, I was unable to collect quite a bit. But this was a big healthy maple that we saw in Evergreen Park, because ever find yourself in Bremerton, it's a beautiful park to visit. And so we noticed that the severity was a range between like trees being completely coated and just starting to see the spores. And we noticed that the leaves were crumpling up, yellowing and browning and dying off. Whoops. And I don't know if you guys can see, over here. This leaf right here was covered in powdery mildew and crumpling up and dying. So it's not too good. And some more pictures. Here it is on the trunk. This is the severe side of the range. And then you can see the little spores just starting. And I wanted to note that these trees were pretty close to the ones that we did next to Evergreen, next to this big, beautiful tree. So it's a little disheartening. The negative effects of powdery mildew. Powdery mildew thrives in a cool, damp night, warm days environment. The leaves yellow up and die. And it's not one of the more extreme diseases, but we'd like to see our trees as healthy as they can be. So we want to try and stop this as much as we can. What happens when a block is planted with one species? So unfortunately, Bremerton has the habit of planting the same trees, as you can see, all lined up next to each other like this. This is just one example of one street. The neighboring street up this way is the same way. And it's really easy for disease to spread this way, as I'm sure we all know. So to fix that, Bremerton doesn't really have a plan to fix that. Bremerton, I've come to realize, has a really interesting council. They're really hard to get in contact with. They don't have a lot of plans in place. It's a little disheartening. But I included a list of appropriate trees that we could plant in place of maples. But unfortunately, Bremerton continues to just plant the same maples instead of choosing from this really extensive list that they got approved. But planting diversity would help. And I wanted to also include this. So Bremerton is here, and this is all of Kitsap County. So we have Paulsbo, Silverdale, Bainbridge, and Port Orchard. And Bremerton has the lowest tree equity and the worst tree health I found in my research. and I just included some statistics, but we have almost double and even more than our neighbors. And that is because we have the shipyard and the ferry right in downtown, which makes Bremerton really popular. Um, but with being really popular, we're having to build more buildings and stuff, which is affecting our tree canopy. So this is an aerial shot of the shipyard, which I thought would be fun to include. So the shipyard spans most of this right here. And then this is all of downtown Bremerton, West Bremerton area. And then this is the ferry and where they're doing a lot of new construction. So the shipyard has a really impressive list of chemicals that are emitted into our air and ocean, which I found through research. And planting more trees and being involved in keeping the health of our trees could really probably, be a start to help mitigate these issues. And to continue on that, we have a lot of people coming from Seattle that are moving to Bremerton but are still working in Seattle. A lot of the naval ships are in right now at the same time, and this is causing a demand for housing to go up, which is causing a demand for construction, which is affecting our tree canopy. And we are finding that we are having some challenges. We don't have any planting strips like I've seen in other cities such as Tacoma. I should have included a picture, but we just have sidewalks and no planting strips next to them. But if we were able to have some planting strips, we'd be able to plant, new trees with more diversity. And yeah, but cost and maintenance is seeming to fall on private landowners, private property owners, because the right of way is so small. All of these trees are mostly on private land. So it's falling into the laps of people trying to maintain their own yard, which could be inconvenient for them. So to bridge a gap for Bremerton's tree health and equity, I really love Giselle's project because it was so perfect to have an outreach like that. It would be awesome to maybe have some fundraising for the city and for private property owners and connecting with the conservation program that we have here, the Peninsula Conservation Program, and connecting with local schools for volunteers, maybe to help participate if we were able to get a planting. But really it comes down to the city needing to be a little bit more involved in taking tree inventories and planting and having a better budget and that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, and my acknowledgements. Thanks, Zay and Fig. They came out to Bremerton 3 times to help me inventory trees, and that was really awesome. And thank you to Joey for providing me with this opportunity, and to everyone else who's been involved. I really appreciate it. And a huge thank you to the funders of this project.